meaningful session. Welcome to the fifth edition of Learning with Dr. Anil Sachdev, founder and CEO at School of Inspired Leadership. Dr. Anil believes that visionary leadership can transform organizations into powerful catalysts for social good, ecological harmony, and enduring value. This belief has not just inspired us, but ignited a movement. We live in a world where negative emotions can weigh heavily in our hearts, shaping our decisions, relationships, and even our sense of self. But we are not meant to carry these burdens on our own. We can navigate these complex emotions with the support of a community, where our colleagues, friends, family, and even strangers can become our guides. A compassionate space where we are heard, understood, and accepted can transform the pain into growth and feelings of isolation into feelings of belongingness. I'm honored to introduce our distinguished co-hosts who will help us explore this thought further. First, I would like to introduce Ms. Devika Tandon, who is the Director HR at Hilti India, and who has excelled in both generalist as well as COE roles across global and Indian multinational organizations. Under her leadership, Hilti India has been consistently ranked among the top 20 in the great places to work. Devika is passionate about creating impact in teams and organizations. She has led transformation initiatives and coached leaders to foster culture and mindset change. Also joining us is Dr. Virendra Singh Sangwan, who is the Director of Innovation at Dr. Shroff Charity Eye Hospital. Dr. Sangwan has been instrumental in placing India's blindness rehabilitation mission on the global stage. He has performed over 1,000 stem cell transplantations and conducted groundbreaking research at LV Prasad Eye Institute, Hyderabad. He has also earned global recognition as the youngest medical director at Flying Eye Hospital, Orbis International. In the words of Dr. Sangwan, no man can change the world by himself. You need a team, and in the end, you are as good as the team. With this insight, we explore the topic that often remains unspoken, emotions such as regret and guilt, and how the power of genuine human connection and community can help us heal, accept, and move forward. As the co-host for the session, I will be facilitating the discussion among our panelists. Just a gentle reminder to all the participants to keep their mics on mute and contribute by typing into the chat box. We will be weaving in all the suggestions and the reflections as we proceed with the discussion. So with this opening note, I would invite Dr. Anil Sachdev to share his thoughts and set the tone for the discussion.
So, Samastajana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadguru Brahma Vidvaram. That was a prayer to my teacher, Swami Chinmayananda. So, today's topic is one around building community. Many years back, I saw a video and also read the book called The Global Brain. In this, the researcher studied pictures of Mother Earth taken from outer space. And some of the cities resembled cancerous cells. So much so that people couldn't make out a difference between the photograph of cancer and the picture of these cities from outer space. The researcher was intrigued and he asked, what is unique about these cities? And he found these cities had some of the highest crime rates, drug problem, crimes against women. So he inquired deeper and he wrote that just like in a community when we get disconnected from each other, we begin to get into our own selfish agendas, and we don't even care about what's happening to the other. We don't take responsibility for the commons. Then it leads to lack of integrity, ethics, violence, crime, conflict, especially respect for women. And this is quite intriguing that a researcher was looking at Mother Earth and looking at the nurturance of Mother Earth and how the inhabitants of Mother Earth, when we human beings get disconnected, then we get into these issues. So really speaking, the raw emotion that we have of always having some regrets about the past, feeling guilty about something we have done, having unstated emotional expectations from other human beings, which are not being met, and continuously feeling as if the others are not fair with me. I have been given a raw deal. What did I do earlier? Have I made a mistake? These kinds of negative emotions impact our capacity to live the highest in us, because we have many dreams and visions. We want to become the best in whatever we do. But these negative emotions hold us back. And so the key is that formation of a community in which people can be transparent, honest, and authentic with each other. So I would like to say the key to overcome these emotions that we talk about, which inhibit the greatness in each one of us. These emotions, the key to channel these emotions is community. And that's what I think today's session is all about. So thank you for asking me to explain the context.
Thank you, Anil sir, for explaining it to us. Now, I would like to invite Devika to go ahead and ask her question in this context.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, Anil and my co-panelist. I've been practicing as an eye surgeon for last 25, 30 years, Anil, and have trained a lot of young surgeons to become proficient in what they do. The context of us as doctors is that on one hand, we deal with suffering, disappointments, frustrations of our patients. And especially we feel the emotion of failure when we are not able to treat or cure a person from a particular suffering. But my question today is how to, inculcate or build a community for young surgeons when they go through this emotion of fear and anxiety when they start performing surgery. And in for us it is more than 100% expectation that it has to be successful, because it's for an individual patient it's 100%. So please explain from your experiences and from your own examples.
I think I have a friend who used to live near the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. His name is Harrison Owen. He is the man who invented this methodology of open space. Harrison once said to me that, Anil, the biggest problem in organizations is that people do not want to take responsibility for failure. They live in fear of failure. This is because nobody owns the failure. And people feel so guilty if they have failed, like you said, a young surgeon who may have done a mistake, that it's a very raw emotion and they don't know how to handle it, and they don't have a support system which is designed. So he said, something we could learn from the Indian culture. He said he observed that when some near or dear one passes away in India, all the friends and family and neighbors come together to grieve the loss. People stay back to help the person. Even food is not cooked inside the house. Others come and support. And they form a genuine community around the person so that the person can deal with the loss. He said, similarly, in organizations, when we have a mistake, when there is a failure, what would happen? if the organization was to recognize that there is a need for a ritual of overcoming the grief, that grieving together is an important one. That means people have to be encouraged to create time and space in the organization to come together, share this raw emotion, talk about, just like we talk about the person who's passed away, we talked about with fondness about the person's virtues. So Harrison was encouraging us to say, talk about the intention you had when you were doing an operation, for example. Talk about your own vision of becoming the best. Talk about how you honor each other's expertise. And then talk about what has actually happened and allow people to grieve, allow people to express their negative emotion. Let there be a catharsis. Let it come out. Because when that happens, when catharsis happens, negative emotions come out, then people say, okay, how can we learn from each other? What did we do? What did the other colleague of mine do? Apparently, there was a solution possible that we could learn from each other. Because nobody had an intention that I will come and do something which was not up to the mark in my work. It happened because of either lack of skill or a particular lack of, let's say, training, or let's say it was just one of those unfortunate things that happened that day without ascribing a reason. That means something in the process. See, something else we learned early, that problems are never with people in an organization. They're always with a process or a system. That means if we can learn by doing the why analysis and by applying the quality understanding to how we do problem solving and do the root cause analysis, then we can give ourselves the permission to say, okay, we found the root cause of the problem. Now we are going to find a solution which is going to be standardized, and we are going to train the entire system out of the learning that we had, so that the failure became an opportunity for us to learn, and it resulted in a strong process and a system, resulted in capability building in the future, so others could benefit from what we learned out of that. So if this approach is taken, I think a lot can be achieved in helping people to overcome this. Those are my opening comments. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Anil.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Sangwan, because all of us feel that the medical sector is a very critical space, and you come across those feelings of fear and guilt pretty often, and there is a huge impact of these feelings. So I think that is one of the sectors where we could really initiate certain changes and developments on the same line, and that could be reciprocated in other.
So Anil and your team, I would like to invite you to give me some task or some support so that we can try this as an experiment to build how to build a community, especially when we are training young doctors, because that process for doctors training for tomorrow is very important for the nation.
Absolutely happy to do that. And I think, Sarika, you seem to be the chosen one for this conversation. You and I can discuss how to support Virendra's work in the hospital, which of course I'm very fond of, the Shroff Hospital, for more reasons than one. So thank you. So maybe Devika is ready to ask us the next question. Yeah.
Yes, Anil, I'm more than ready, because you touched a very personal chord with respect to death, grief, and because you got so personal, I'm moved to ask you really that can you share a time when you felt a significant grief or regret or guilt, and what was the community that helped you overcome it? And that's the first part of the question. And I've had also the honor of being part of organization which you created, and I've seen some of the work you did as a leader to build those communities. So also some tips for us that how can organizations and leaders create those communities, which can help support the ecosystem and help people overcome negative emotions. So two parts, sharing your own experience and how as leaders we can create those systems in the organization.
So, Devika, let me begin by sharing something very personal. My father suddenly had a stroke And I had gone to IIM Ahmedabad to give a guest lecture, and I got a phone call that my father is not well. And we rushed to Pune at that time. So that time when my father had a stroke, something, and he couldn't recognize any one of us. When I reached Pune in the hospital, he couldn't recognize anybody. So I used to be a smoker those days, and I made a deal with God. I said, before I stepped into the hospital, I did a deal saying, God, spare the life of my father for one more year. That's all I ask for you. And if you do that, I will never smoke again. We went inside, all of us brothers and sisters were there. My father was not recognizing anybody. His face had completely turned. So all of a sudden an inspired idea came that let's call Swami Chinmayananda on the phone. So from the hospital room of my father we called, and we put the phone to my father's ears. All of a sudden my father said, Gurudev. And he came alive. And Dr. Wadia, the neurosurgeon, said, I have never seen this in my entire career. That a person whom I had said has got only a limited time left because his brain injury is there, his clots have impacted, he's completely gone into irreversible stroke. He said, I've never seen this happen earlier. And my father suddenly said, when did you come here? He's immediately recognized. That gave us all siblings a beautiful sense that, God and Gurudev have saved our father because all of us considered my dad to be our best friend. He was such a loving father that all six of us siblings would consider him as our best friend. This is part A of the story. That we had almost with divine intervention brought our dad back from near certain demise to he was around with us for some more time. But now I fast forward the story to a year later, my father had another stroke. And he was in hospital in Mysore, and all of us siblings used to take turns in looking after my dad. We would be in the hospital all night, 2 hours duty each. First you sleep for 2 hours, then you sleep. He got completely recovered and he was to be discharged the following morning. So I and my elder brother Rajesh, in whose home in Mysore my father was staying, and this was in a hospital in Mysore, we told my mother that we want to go out and celebrate. And those days we were eating non-veg food. And the local Udupi restaurant where we were eating every day, we said we won't eat there. We will go at some distance to eat in the non-veg restaurant. My mother said, don't go. But my father smiled and said, let them go. And before that, my parents had blessed all the nurses and staff. And my dad was in a very happy mood. And he had blessed everybody. So as we ate the non-veg food out of, I don't know why we went there, my brother said, what if something has happened to my father? And as we rushed back and we were entering the hospital, we saw our mother screaming and coming out of the room. And my father had just passed away. In our absence, they had taken the oxygen cylinder away. So I and my brother, till today, this thought always strikes me, and I feel a tremendous sense of guilt. That why for a few moments of pleasure, of course, from that day onwards, not only have I become vegetarian, I can't even if by mistake somebody gives me non-veg, I immediately vomit or I feel terrible about it. This happened. I think it took me a long time to heal from this experience because I used to really blame myself and feel very guilty. Then, of course, we have a closely knit family. I talk to my siblings. I talk to Neera, my wife. And bit by bit, because of the support in the family and because of also getting a chance to share this in some of these discussions, whenever we had an intimate space for sharing, I would get a chance to also share what is my guilt in the past. And that helped me to bit by bit deal with it and come to terms with it. But I often ask myself, if I had not got that supportive environment at my home, and if I did not have some genuine friends and well-wishers who would listen without judgment and who would understand where I'm coming from, I think it would have clearly resulted in something far more negative. So this is what happened to me. And I think I was able to share it so much so that, we do these transformational leadership workshops. Even in my self-leadership class, we have a psychodrama kind of a session. When we are discussing this community session, we create small groups amongst our students and we light a candle. Each one of them gets a candle in that round table. And first I narrate my story about this guilt and some other issues about my guilt in my life. And I authentically share my own sense of guilt. And then students feel empowered. And of course, I have done this also in senior leadership workshops. They feel empowered. They offer these negative emotions to that fire in the candle. And we make some norms for that sharing. For example, we share, nobody will ever speak about this outside the room. Then we say to each person in that circle where we are building this trusting community, or we are struggling to build this trusting community, each person has a talking stick. That means they have something in their hand, like a pen. Say, as long as I have my pen in my hand, I want to share something more. And people give each other the space to share. Sometimes there is silence in the circle for even 5 minutes. Because we say it's not compulsory for everybody to share. Sometimes we say you can share your guilt and disappointment and grief silently to the fire. And others are creating the space in which it's okay for people to share this. So this has been a beautiful process of healing when you create conditions in the group where people are listening without judgment, when they are feeling a sense of empathy, they have deep connection. I remember when we did this with Mr. R.D. Godrej and the leadership team of Godrej as an in-company workshop. We did it with Sailesh Mehta and chairman of Deepak Fertilizers with his leadership team. First people said, we did it with, my friend Ashraf, the chairman of Brandix in Sri Lanka. Even when this was attempted as an in-house workshop on deep personal and transformational leadership, and we prepared everybody to launch this as an experiment on community building. And we said there is no compulsion for everybody to share something. It's only those who wish to share. And we developed some norms of empathetic listening, of listening without judgment and allowing the other to speak. I think this experiment, all those who attended these transformational leadership workshops that we have conducted, some of my colleagues like Prasad Kaipa, Dinesh Chandra, they were co-facilitators with me. We have felt that this very process of doing this has brought, for example, students in the classroom, they become much closer as a community as a result. The leadership teams of organizations who take the risk of doing this as an in-company format, it brings them together. So I think there are some, and we always say it's a struggle for forming an authentic community. And only once we feel we are ready to do this and there is no compulsion, only then we can move forward to do something like this. So this is some of my personal experience I wanted to share.
Thank you, Anil. I guess it makes me remember some of those large scale initiatives when we were in the consulting times that we did for many companies to bring people together, to have that positivity, appreciation for each other. And in today's world, we often term it as creating a safe space, psychological safety, inclusiveness in organization. And there's a lot of work happening in all organizations around these areas. But having experienced some of the ecosystems that you created, I remember I was also going through a very personal loss, and when I joined Grow Talent. But some of these ecosystems that you spoke about, really, the morning circles, the small things, just brought everyone together. And I guess it's it's more than the rituals, it's the consistency of the rituals that you do day in and day out, and it becomes a habit. And then that probably brings people together and remember those also for a very long time throughout their life and pass it on. So thank you for sharing that. And I will pass it back to Dr. Sarika.
Yeah. So,
Having heard Dr. Anil, having heard your thoughts and also Devika's thoughts about, the kind of ecosystems organizations can create uh, to develop a community and an inclusive culture. I still, there's another question that comes to my mind as to, all these can be enabled with a culture of trust. So, Dr. Anil, how do you think we can really improve that perception of organizational trust among the employees in order to be uh, supporting such ecosystems, trust between the employees?
so Sarika, first, I'm not a PhD and a doctor for your information. Second, you are a new colleague in Soil, and please call me by my first name, because
Yes.
when you learn to call me Anil, that itself will be the first step in creating a culture where I know that in academics, for many of you, it's very difficult to call the chairman or the founder by the first name. But the reason I want people to do that is irrespective of my age. I could be old enough to be your father, but I believe if we are working together as colleagues in a workplace, we are all colleagues.
Sure.
And we are in an environment where, you do your work, I do the work that is assigned to me. And all of us are working together. So I think the first thing is to find out how to create an environment where people truly feel easy in each other's presence. Hierarchy and power and such things don't create differences. I remember we had some international guests who were traveling with us, and even in Grow Talent, I remember one of our right management colleagues came from New Zealand, and he was part of our annual conference to Silbadi, annual learning conference. And we were all traveling in the train together. He had not met me. He just came straight to the train journey. And then, for whatever reason, I was sleeping on the 3 tier. I was sleeping on the top floor, and I had asked some younger people to sleep down below. And that man was saying that he asked somebody in the Grow Talent team, this guy is your founder, he's the CEO. How come he sleeps on top and the younger people are sleeping at the bottom? And why doesn't he get the preference of sleeping in the train? So I said to him, how does it matter? I'm quite fine upstairs. And in any case, it's not by hierarchy that, the best chairs or the best place should be given to the person who is. I said, rank and position should not be imposed on people. I mean, people should be respected for who they are. Sometimes the youngest person in the room may have the highest expertise in a subject, and we have to honor that, and we have to respect that person's expertise in the room. So we unfortunately in India particularly, we give too much deference to authority and to rank and to responsibilities. And I think the first thing we have to learn is to go beyond the facade of said and said we are all colleagues, we are all part of the same team. Second thing, in order to do that, I think we need to have a lot of fun together. So which means that, when you should look for excuses to celebrate. I am remembering my mentor in Aisha, Mr. H.T.S. Malhotra, who was also the chairman for some time. When I was heading the factory, he would always say to me, Anil, if you have produced some, let's say today you produce 5 tractors extra in the shift, do a little samosa party with all your workers and staff. Do small celebrations. Create an excuse to celebrate each other's success. Now, excuses, okay, today somebody's anniversary is there. Anniversary, not just your wedding anniversary, your anniversary for joining the company. Your birthday is an opportunity to appreciate the positives in you. And we have covered this in one of the earlier episodes of the series. But if you have created an enabling environment, you have reduced the hierarchy, you have allowed people to talk. And see, I also want to say something very important here. every team leader has a responsibility to encourage people to speak up. When you encourage people to speak up, initially negative feedback will come out. That means the people may start criticizing you as the team leader. I remember a fascinating time, a person who used to work, an Indian person who is naturalized Japanese, took me to a very well-known organization in Japan with their CEO and leadership team. They took me out for a dinner, drinks and dinner. So there, the Japanese were talking to each other, and it appeared to me that the juniors were really disturbed with their CEO and telling him certain things after having a few drinks. Then this Indian turned to me in Hindi and told me, ये ना अपने बॉस को गाली निकाल रहे हैं. मैंने कहा क्या मतलब? बोले ये Japanese practice होती है. This is a practice that they encourage their juniors to come out with everything that is bothering them. And in the evening, they take them out for a drink and say, okay, you can criticize anything you like. Give me feedback. And they are actually telling him that the mistakes he has done. Because in the office, they will not say, because there is a very strong concept of loss of face. They will not speak in public. But after a few drinks in private amongst a small group, and they know you don't know Japanese, so they are doing it even in your presence. So I thought, what a brilliant idea that if you can encourage your juniors to take out all the negative that they are experiencing. So I learned this one thing: if you can encourage your juniors to be indiscreet in your presence, they will never talk later behind your back. If they don't feel comfortable talking about you in your presence, then behind your back, they will pull you down. Because if they feel a sense of fear, if they think that you are not going to understand them properly, if they don't trust you, then they will keep doing this gossiping. Then these cliques get formed. Then politics happens in companies. So I want to also say one more example. When I had just joined Aisha, I got typhoid and I was in bed for 40 days. And Mr. Vikram Lal, the founder and CEO of Aisha at that time, he was my immediate supervisor. I was a young 23-and-a-half-year-old person he had hired as head of HR at the corporate office. At a very young age, he gave me this responsibility. But when I got an attack of typhoid, he came to my house 10 times in 40 days. In the last 15 days, I was moved to my in-law's house in Defense Colony because my wife she was getting very worried that my fever is not going even after 30 days. Even in Defense Colony at my in-law's house, Vikram Lal came 3 times over those 10 days. But something quite remarkable happened. We were doing heavy recruitment in Aisha those days, and Mr. Subodh Bhargav, who later on became chairman of Aisha, he was director of projects. He wanted talent very quickly, and I was responsible for hiring people. So he went and told Vikram Lal that this Anil Sachdev, this new manager, I don't know where he is, he's nowhere to be seen. Why has he not done this job properly? I have no information. So he told something against me to Vikram Lal. Vikram Lal told him, Subodh, perhaps you may not be aware that Anil is resuming duty tomorrow. He's become better now. And why don't you ask him tomorrow, let's have a joint meeting. So next time when I joined, he called Subodh and me into the room and said, Subodh, will you please repeat to me what you were telling about Anil when he was not there? And Subodh immediately recognized, and then he said, no, Anil, I was telling Vikram that this new person in HR, we don't know what he's up to. He's not taken responsibility for hiring. Then I told him, Subodh, I am very sorry, I could not reach out to you. But, I was getting the applications at home. I had shortlisted. The interviews have been organized and interviews are beginning next week. I apologize if I could not give the information to you, but the correct interviewers have been told. So he said, okay, thank God. Because even when I was sick, I was shortlisting and I had done all the arrangements. But I learned a very important lesson out of this exercise. Mr. Vikram Lal said, if you want to talk anything negative against anyone else, even if that person may be the youngest and junior most, you will not come and complain about that person behind that person's back. And Subodh was such a generous and wonderful leader that instead of taking it amiss, he's very much respected the process Vikram had done, and he also was very open in giving me feedback. And this is something which really was beautifully organized as a lesson. So since then, I never forgot this, that in all the organizations I have been part of, if people come and complain about someone else, I say, why don't we discuss that in that person's presence? We will never discuss a person when that person is not in the room. We can discuss a process, we can discuss a system, but we won't discuss people if they are not in the room. I think if you do these small things that we just talked about, it creates an environment where people feel it's okay for us to goof up. It's okay for us to learn from our mistakes. It's okay for us to share what we are learning from our mistakes. So let the regrets and guilt not be carried further. So that's what I want to say.
I think we really can derive a lot of takeaways from the discussion where Anil has shared few of his personal experiences, where organizations and senior managers have been instrumental in creating an environment where people can come forth and share their thoughts openly in front of the individual rather than behind the individual. So, and also we could also learn from different cultures, right? As Anil talked about the experience with the Japanese colleagues. Certain best practices could be adopted from cultures which are similar to ours, cultures which are different from ours, wherein organizations, managers can encourage people to share their thought openly. So I think it is time to ask the audiences, invite any questions. We have some questions in the chat box. I would like to invite Mr. Anil Grover to share his questions with Anil, and we can take the discussion forward.
You can put the spotlight on Anil, yeah.
Mr. Anil Grover.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you,
yes.
Sarika.
So please go ahead and ask your question.
Sure. So this is to Anil and rest of the panel members. I often nowadays in my work come across leaders who are wondering, especially what has happened post-COVID, where a lot of people are working from home, and what has happened in the post-AI world, where the whole dynamics of the job transformation is in progress. And there are these undercurrents which are not shared. So in that context, any experience or story you could share, which would be very valuable for them to forge the kind of community spirit as well as the bonding and make sure that whatever is in the shadow as a guilt or a regret is brought to light and dissolved.
Anil, I had a similar question for Anil, and I'll just add to it. Um, Anil, like you said, also adding few words to it, like in today's time is so fast paced, also bordering towards a bit of individualism. Everyone is getting in their own space, and no more joint families that much, that used to be there in earlier times. And today's generation has not really experienced that community from a family perspective also, because the concepts have changed of living and everything. So adding to your question, if all of these elements are also there, Anil, Sachdev, how do we really as leaders ignite this thought and inspire people to really go towards this community building and experience it, because they may not see it even as important. So how do we really go about it?
See, there are 5 kinds of practices that we may want to engage with. First, whenever we are working in any team, in addition to defining individual goals for the team and the roles for the team, we should have one item which is a team goal. One item the entire leadership team, for example, in an organization, will take joint responsibility for. That would be their learning agenda. So they would meet regularly, learn from that, practice something, and really inspire themselves by supporting one another. I'll tell you a story that Prasad Kaipa told me, my friend who was working with Boeing company as a consultant, and Gary Jusela was the executive vice president of Boeing responsible for leadership development. Those days, Boeing was developing the 777 Boeing program. And there were a lot of functional silo behavior between people, and there was a fair bit of anxiety on what would happen if the program was to fail and so on. You know, Gary and the team, including Prasad, what they did was something quite innovative. They encouraged the leadership team. Phil Condit was the CEO. He and his leadership team would involve, along with their families, on weekends they would go and offer community service together. So they would, for example, build a home for homeless. And they would do it together on the weekends. So this aspect of not only learning together, but doing an act of service together. What that did was that it brought, and they also invited on an optional basis family members who want to come and volunteer. I think this was a remarkable innovation because it improved the interface between people, increased their level of trust, improved collaboration, and it started improving also their program implementation for the complex program management of the new aircraft. So this, almost an innocent idea born out of a good intention to say, why don't we go and serve together, was the second part. Third part is that we have to, in every organization, we should remember that there should be, particularly in India, this is very, very important, involving your personal side to work along with your families. You can decide it's your foundation day, it could be Diwali day, it could be the annual awards function. In Aisha, we used to do this called Good Earth Day on 3rd September, where all the families and children were invited to the plants, for example. We would spend the whole day. In the morning, everybody would come. Then we would have a sports function, interdivisional, interdepartmental sports. Then all the senior management would serve food. Like in a Gurdwara in Langar, everybody is sitting down. So blue-collar staff are sitting, workers are sitting. And the senior most people are serving them that day. Out of a sense of humility, out of a sense that you are the people who are actually running this plant and we are only there to support you. And in the evening, there was entertainment, talent show, employees and their children would perform. They would share stories, poetry. They would have long service awards. So these rituals are extraordinarily powerful rituals. I don't know if in one of the earlier episodes, if I am going to repeat this story, I beg your forgiveness for it, but we did an interdivisional celebration. I think in one of the earlier episodes, I talked about it as to how every unit of Aisha, they made a skit, they made a song, and they came and performed together. So that was another example of that. So I think, why is the armed forces the most trusted body? I had referred to that also earlier in one of my episodes. See, community is consciously designed to celebrate together, to involve the personal side as much to the professional side. So that's the third element I'm talking about. The fourth element is that what are the processes which are introducing fear in the system? Because what happens is, sometime in the way we design our performance management system, the way we have feedback system, the way we have rating system, the way we have reward system, it unnecessarily creates fear inside the system. So do our processes require a different language? For example, can even our language of inviting people to give a self-appraisal be very inviting? Could we use the language saying, dear Devika, it's time for us to recognize your uniqueness this year. Can you please tell us what are the special things you brought to work this year? Can you tell us what were the moments of joy and happiness this year? Can you tell us what you discovered new about yourself? We have this very structured competency model, 4-box, 5-box rating system, and we are too much emphasizing that part. Somewhere even our language that we use for our HR processes, they are sometimes more formal and more intimidating. So can we change the language of our HR processes? Because let me tell you, the performance appraisal process is the #1 cause for low morale and high attrition inside a company. So can we completely change the conversation around performance appraisal? And my last part is, see, there are some managers in the system who deliberately create fear. And many people don't speak up. And if they speak up, they suffer negative consequences. I think we must have a remedial process for such people. Provide them mentorship, provide them remedial coaching, talk to them about how we value them, but not value this behavior, how they may want to do things differently. And of course, if ultimately things don't work out, and some people are only leading through fear because that is so much part of their DNA, then one has to find for the sake of the large majority, because we have to get the best out of vital many and not just the chosen few. Too many organizations focus only on the chosen few and don't believe in getting the best out of the vital many. So I would say that also requires. So these are the 5 dimensions of thought I will share about that.
Thank you. That's very comprehensive, Anil. That
Yeah.
is beautiful.
Thank you.
I think in the present context where technology is taking over, I think it's all the more important for us to work on the community building systems within the organizations. And from what we discussed, it is our traditions, even other cultural practices, and even, modifying our own HR practices, which could bring in the change, which could really make a difference to how, a community-based or a positive, inclusive culture could be built within the organization. So here I would like to invite Dr. Srinivasan to talk about, to ask his question to Mr. Anil.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you, Sarika, for this great opportunity.
You can put the spotlight on Srini.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you one question. You talked about the regret and guilt that you faced when your father died and you were not present in the at the moment, at the site of his place where he breathed his last. Can regrets be converted into opportunities for growth? If yes, what ways? What are the ways we can do that? Because we always say that every fall is an opportunity. Can regrets also be converted into opportunity? That is my question.
Yeah, absolutely. See, when we look at what happened in the past and what did we learn from it, then how can we become wiser and how can we behave in a more aware way the next time such a similar context happens? So I think for me personally, that was a very important learning for me, that, you can't afford to just, we decided to celebrate my father's recovery in a premature way. And obviously we have learned a lesson from that one should never do something like this. But let me say that was a more dramatic case because we couldn't bring my father back in our lives, but we could certainly take responsibility for what we could have done differently. There are more regrets of the kind, for example, when you carry some rancor in your heart and you don't have the courage to offer yourself and others forgiveness of what you carry in your heart. I think without going very personal and talking about specific individuals, there are many individuals, for example, whom I felt in the past that they wronged the organization or they wronged the system, like somebody who gave a complete story on why the person was leaving your organization and went and joined a competitor by speaking complete lies, right? And for a moment, you felt very wrong that why did the person not have the courage to say that the person is leaving for this reason? And good luck to the person. But I think you have to learn to forgive yourself and move on from that. Because if you still carry that in your heart, then why did this person do to you? You are only, as Swami Chinmayananda said, why bring revenge upon yourself for the fault of others? So, it's okay. I think life is much too short. So if you keep thinking about all the people who brought negative energy in your life and keep feeling a sense of regret about why you allowed yourself to be trampled, or why did you involve yourself to be hurt, or why did that person do these things to you, why did the person break the promise or commitment the person made to you, and if you keep living in the past, actually you are denying yourself the right to live joyfully today. So therefore, I think it's very important for us to carry that feeling that in our heart that even this will change, even this will move on. And it's okay. You don't have to focus on those who are the dark side of, who are reinforcing the negative in you. But it is good to celebrate the ones who are the positive, and focus on the ones whom you would really like to value, and do that. So I think every regret is equal to a learning opportunity, and every learning opportunity you have to tell yourselves, as I had mentioned in one of the earlier episodes, always focus on what new efforts you would take rather than worry about your own misfortune and your lack of certain ability or lack of certain context. If you give too much of power to the context and your own ability, then you will deny yourself the opportunity to serve and to take the right quality of efforts. So don't give the excuse of the context. Don't get the excuse that you are not having the ability and that you are not good enough, no matter what someone else tells you. Because everything can be changed through effort. Yes, Devika.
So probably what I can, what learning I'm having from your uh, sharing of thoughts is probably letting go of the guilt or the regrets itself will lead you to the growth path rather than just the learning from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well said. Yeah.
Anil, while you were speaking, this thought was coming to my mind that how did you reach this stage? It's easier said than done, in terms of always forgiving, letting go, seeing the positive, and I'm sure you have evolved into this stage after many years. But what do you do to get to this stage, really? And some simple things that we all, as leaders or as students, can do probably, and we can also at some time in our lives reach that stage. So something, yeah.
When you are in great pain and suffering, find someone else who is suffering even more and help that person. When you do that, the pain of you all becomes insignificant, because sometimes you are too much conscious about your own pain and your own sense of guilt and regret. But when you find someone else who is in bigger pain and suffering, and then you begin to find small ways to make that person feel better, whether by spending time or giving that person attention. The biggest gift we can give to people today is time and attention. Money is overrated as a capital. I think attention capital is far more important. So if you can do that way you can heal yourself better. So, one of the keys to resilience is to find a way to be compassionate both to yourself and to others. And we have discussed this in one of the earlier episodes on the power of compassion. And that, I think, is the key to build the resilience. So if you find, if you are too much focusing on others' happiness, all of a sudden you get so involved in making others feel so good that you say, oh my God, this is far more worthwhile rather than putting myself into an isolation and feeling low and depressed, because this is very worthwhile. So when I do that, I develop my own capacity to look after my problem also. So that's really the key.
Thank
Yes,
you,
Bill.
Anil.
Thank you, Devika. And Virender?
Yeah, I just wanted to reinforce what you just said from my own examples. Like, when you are focused too much on you or your own problems, your mind magnifies it many times. Human mind is capable of multiplying your own thought several hundred times. As a doctor, some days I am very tired, or I don't feel like going or working, or feel so, because of exhaustion. But when I start seeing patient, and when I see each of their suffering, I forget what I was thinking,
Fantastic.
because my context change. I see their suffering is real, mine is only in mental.
Fantastic, Virender. I mean, you are an absolute role model, Virender. That's why thank you for really co-hosting this, because Virender is one of those absolutely selfless leaders who creates this environment. And, their mission is to eradicate needless blindness. And the way they are doing it, one patient at a time, is quite remarkable. So thank you, Virender, for your
Thank
service.
you. Yeah, thank you, Anil.
Thank you.
Srinivasan.
Well, I think there's a lot of learning for all of us through this session. We have come full circle in terms of understanding how we can give away feelings of regret and fear and guilt at a personal level, and also make those required changes at the organization or the team level. And we have a lot to take away from the personal experiences of Mr. Virendra as well as Mr. Anil. And though, I completely echo with Devika in terms of when she says it's easier said than done. I also feel that several times. What exactly is it that I can do? But I do feel there is a reality in what Anil has to say or what Virendra sir is saying. If you really give less importance to your own uh, challenges and you focus on trying to help others, your own challenges appear to be much smaller. So I think it is really practical to exercise, to practice.
And I would say one last thing, especially we men sometimes, in our attempt to look macho, we sometimes don't allow emotion to be demonstrated at the workplace. So I say it's okay for men also to cry. It's okay for us, the emotion to come out. It's okay for us to allow our raw
Sir,
emotion.
can I interrupt?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, I'm Dr. Amit, and Dr. Saman knows me.
Yes.
And very well, I heard your conversation. I'm sorry, I just joined you a bit late. Sir, emotions are very important when you dealing with the family problems and you have professional problems, right? My father was in a very serious condition, but still I managed my professional life, right? And if you have time, sir, if you have time.
Yes. Go ahead.
Today, sir, on my way to the hospital, I actually, when I was going, there was a patient, actually, she collapsed, right? And I stopped myself immediately and I resuscitated her. I gave her CPR and she was revived. I moved her to the hospital and she went there. I came to the hospital. I did my cases. When my OT was over, I went to see the patient because मैंने उसको revive किया था, right? And that patient was absolutely stable, right? So the question is, when you're going through so many things in your own life, right? But people don't understand. They, when you professionally you are working in a hospital, but they demand something, like, yes, this is done. You have to maintain a certain level of dignity and whatever it is. So you don't feel bad about it. But how to balance your own personal life, family life with a professional life, because they are all interrelated, sir. I feel very, very imbalanced in these terms, because if I'm disturbed, I can't focus on my professional life. Please, sir, can you give me some inspiration over this?
Yeah, Amit. Yeah, Anil. Just put you. Amit is an anesthesiologist, and Amit, what you did in this morning, saving this life on the road, is remarkable. I think you should feel proud of yourself. That it is
No, sir, I don't
beyond the
feel
column.
proud
No,
of
no.
myself.
Now it's
Sorry.
okay. Now Anil will answer your question.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
I would say, Amit, first of all, thank you for sharing this, and thank you for who you are as a person. I'm deeply touched by your question and also your story.
Thank you, sir.
I would say the three things I will say. One, always remember what Dada Vaswani told all of us. As the clock turns every hour, say to yourself, I am not alone, God is with me. I am not alone, God is with me.
Right, sir. Right, sir.
Number one. Number two, always ask yourself in this question that how can I not only do the best in my situation, because if I'm doing my best, then I have to leave the rest.
Definitely.
The thing we feel guilty about is that we keep feeling that we are not doing our best. And always remember, you can only, this talk about multitasking is not the right theory. That is, the research shows that if you do multitasking, you are getting into sub-quality work, substandard.
Yeah. Yeah, sir.
So always remember to focus on your priorities and do a few things well. Doing a few things well is far better than doing a large number of things, also trying to do things. So it's very important for us to, as there are phases in our life when our children are small, our parents are old, and our professional work is demanding a lot. At that moment, it is okay for us to tell our friends who are used to also getting attention from us that please forgive me. I may not be able to socialize enough with you like I used to do when we were younger. For this time, it's important. So I think we have to consciously try to change our priorities to suit the stage of life.
Sir, definitely, sir.
We will disappoint some people.
Sir,
We will disappoint some people.
Sir, on this point, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you. Sir, but when you take right decisions, right, then you put questions, right? You have been asked questions, why this happened? So how do you feel? I mean, you have been in a similar situation, maybe, right? If you did something right, but still you've been given questions. So how do you feel? You don't feel the embarrassment over there? How should I proceed from here?
If the question being asked is that who is the person, instead of asking why something has happened, if we are putting too much focus on who is responsible, then that is the wrong. If you keep on focusing on who the person rather than what and how and why, when we build a culture of doing actual quality improvement inside a system, we focus on what happened, where did it happen, when did it happen, how did it happen, and why did it happen. That gives us the power of problem solving and finding solutions. But inside many organizations, people want to take a shortcut. They say, who is responsible? And they want to show they are taking some action against that person.
Definitely, sir.
And in such a culture, it's important to train the leaders to say you should never ask who. You should always begin by saying what happened.
Okay, sir. If the leaders betray you, what should you do?
Well, you have three choices. Go and speak up to the leaders and say how you feel about it. So speak very honestly and give them a chance also to learn, because they are also human beings.
Yes,
and
definitely.
If they still don't learn and keep repeating mistakes, then there are always somebody higher above. For example, there's a head of an organization, but there is a board above that. There is a group of trustees above that. And even after doing that, and even after escalation, if it doesn't happen, then you have a choice to then take responsibility for your life and find another place where you will be more at peace with yourself.
Definitely, sir. I got your message. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
It was very nice interacting with you, sir.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Dr. Sangwan, please. I would like to ask Dr. Sangwan at least to say some words.
Yeah, it's time. We are past.
And Amit, time is over.
The time is
okay,
over.
Sir. Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And further suggestions on.
Thank you, ma'am.
On our post. So I would really be happy to conclude the session, and I think it was a very meaningful session for all the participants and the panelists. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, participants, for making this worthwhile. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Sarika. Thank you, Devika. And thank you, Virender, for coming and asking such beautiful questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
I've
you.
really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, can be there a day I can meet you personally?
You want to meet me personally? Sure. Virender has my email ID. Write to me. Yeah.
Are they
I
sure,
will
sir?
connect you.
Are
I
they
will
sure?
connect you.
Okay. Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Dr. Sangwan.
you.
All the members. Thank you so much.
Bye bye,
Thank
Have a
you.
everyone.
lovely evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.